Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we have some exciting news in the world of anime. Earlier today Netflix made an announcement that they will be adapting the anime Cowboy Bebop. Now, if like me you're a fan of the anime coming out of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, then Cowboy Bebop for sure is one of your or on your list of top 10 at the least favorite anime of all time. Right up there with Ghost in the Shell and Akira and a lot of Miyazaki's work that came out around that time. Now, while I'm excited about this project, of course, I'm equally skeptical. Hollywood doesn't exactly have the best track record for live action adaptations for anime. And while Netflix itself has, in some ways, set itself apart over the past few months, looking at Love, Death, and Robots, which really impressed me. And what sets them apart from Hollywood to some extent, because we've seen where Disney has been doing something similar with all their IP, essentially adapting Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and Dumbo recently. They're they're going through their collection and just adapting everything imaginable. And so we see that Hollywood itself is making an attempt to break into what used to be a niche, right? Anime itself, but has now has global recognition, and obviously for them, a lot of money to be made, right? But to some extent, anime fans are as critical, if not more so, than comic book fans. So it's a hurdle that they are going to have to overcome in some ways. We've seen Netflix attempt this before with Death Note, which wasn't received very well, and understandably so. And I speak to Hollywood and Netflix somewhat separately because of the platform that they're on and their approach as well. Netflix seems to give their creative team a bit more free will to do what it is their vision is, right? And so Netflix has attempted it. Hollywood themselves, Ghost in the Shell had a similar reaction as Death Note, and they did. And in my opinion, this was mostly because they attempted to deviate from the core, the storyline to such an extent that it was no longer recognizable. And on watching Ghost in the Shell, Ghost in the Shell is my favorite anime of all time, number one. The original 1998 Ghost in the Shell, right? And on watching the live action adaptation, I went in with an open mind, right? And what I felt they could have done with that was, all right, if you create the characters in this world, use the elements from the storyline, but use a different character, right? If you're going to change the characters, and the same holds true for Death Note as well. If you're going to change the characters to the extent that they are no longer recognizable, have them exist in this world, but under different circumstances with different characters, rather than changing Light to such an extent. Use a different character, call him something else. This other person who happens to find the notebook, because the notebook, Light was not the first human to obtain it, and I'm quite certain he wouldn't have been the last, right? So create these characters in this world, borrow elements from the original source material, but different characters. Same is said for Ghost in the Shell. Rather than changing Motoko to such an extent, use that world. The world of Ghost in the Shell itself is magnificent, right? If you're a fan of science fiction, and it's just something that you would enjoy watching. And so while we would have been attached to Motoko's character, Major's character, I believe that fans would have come around and would have been more accepting if we knew that this is the world that she was in, or is in, could be somewhere around. But these are different characters that we're following in this story, and I believe that would have come across a lot better than what we actually got. So it is my hope that that's not one of the mistakes that they make with this project in particular, right? and try to stick to the source material. And with that, I mean, some of the names attached to this, the lead character, I would say, is just as, if not more important than even the behind the scene writers and directors, because for this character is whoever it is that you've chosen to play Spike will be the soul of this series, right? And I know that is true for any protagonist in any media of any form, right? It's that's expected, but this is just one of those rare situations where a different character just would not work. And so it's like the Witcher adaptation as well. It's like doing the world of the Witcher without Geralt, and while the world in itself is as interesting, it just the actor that you choose has to embody that character. They have to, because that character has become so synonymous with the source material, with the world itself, right? And with that, they've cast John Cho, who I don't know. I know him from Harold and Kumar, right? And I believe he has quite a list of raunchy films under his belt, and he's done some other films here and there. I do recall seeing him in Star Trek, and he's been in other films. Right? Now, John wouldn't have been my first choice, but let's be real here, and I know a lot of fans of the anime will say, oh, and I've seen persons commenting like, he doesn't look anything like Spike, but let's be real. All of these characters are ambiguous, right? In some way, shape, or form, they have characteristics from some specific races per se, but not necessarily others. And it's not so much what the character looks like as his portrayal of what the actor looks like, as so much his portrayal of the character. So in this case, I've seen John's range outside of just comedy, and I do believe he's an actor up to par to play the character. He was just not the first name that came to mind when I thought Spike. And I know for a while Keanu Reeves was being rumored to be interested in the project itself. As for, what happened to that, I have no idea. But and that would have been nice to see. But to some extent, and initially I was going to say that Keanu Reeves kind of aged out of the role. But someone mentioned to me that John is actually 46 years old, which I didn't know. And in thinking about it, because a lot of Netflix posted basically some promotional, some comments pertaining to the storylines, right, and introducing these characters. And while I liked every cast member that I've seen so far, Faye, and I've liked every cast that I've seen so far, Vicious as well. My only issue is with John himself in terms of his age, right? If based on the comments that Netflix had made on their Twitter feed, we would be following Spike's and Vicious's relationship, which would mean from the very beginning, from episode 1 of Cowboy Bebop. Now, Cowboy Bebop wasn't a very long anime. It was around 26 episodes. But it accomplished so much in that time, and to be honest, that's something that I miss from anime these days. You don't need over 100 episodes. I enjoyed Naruto for what it was, Bleach, One Piece that I fell off of because I'm sure fans who are in defense of anime like One Piece will say that, okay, the story is just not been told, but you don't need that many chapters and that many volumes to tell a good story. And if you do, at this point it feels as though you're just milking the project for what it is. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion there. All right, I'm sure a lot of you may feel differently, and that's fine too. All right, so it was only 26 episodes, but they accomplished a lot through mostly flashbacks of Spike's past and how he came to know Vicious and beginning, middle, end. Right, 26 episodes. And what we've heard is that this is going to be this season is going to be around 10 episodes long, and that gives me hope. But back to my initial point, John's age being 46 years old, I place where exactly they plan to start the storyline, because based on their comments, it would suggest that they're starting from the beginning. But if that is the case, why choose an older actor? It may very well be that John is just perfect for the role. I'm sure perhaps they did auditions. I don't know, maybe not. And he was just that good in the role that they decided, hey, let's do it. And if you're being fair, Keanu Reeves basically just said, okay, if I can't be Spike, I'm going to be Spike Wick and be John and play John Wick. And he's like in his 50s. And mind you, he does mostly gun fu and not actual martial arts, which Spike does a whole lot in Cowboy Bebop. And that was really my concern, whether he has the physicality for it, being the age that he is now. And I mean, it was one of the reasons that they gave for not choosing a different actor for the Witcher anime, the Witcher adaptation. Right? They went with Henry Cavill, or it was rumored that they went with Henry Cavill, because the other actors that they had in mind were a bit older, like Mads Mikkelsen would have been my first choice, and it was said that he was a bit too old for the role. And however, despite however I may feel about that, because again, the Witchers don't age the same as humans do, so why would that even matter? But that seems to be the polar opposite to what is happening here. So they're going with an older actor, and some seem to be doing an origin for him from where the anime started, at least in terms of where it started. So it may very well be that maybe that's not the case. That's not the direction they're going to go in, and they start maybe after Vicious and Spike's battle at the end of the anime, where they're both presumed dead, but we never actually we didn't see anything, but the anime ended on spoiler alert. The anime ended with both of them presumably dead. Right? And so I wonder if perhaps it's going to pick up after those events, and it's a situation where, okay, neither of them perished, and Spike somehow managed to find his way back to his crew. Now that I think about it, I'm wondering who will be playing Ed, because the casting news didn't mention anything about Ed. Ed, who's their young genius, right? Genius hacker, right? So I do wonder if they're going to be picking up after the events of their last battle, and then rather than retelling the story and potentially messing it up, they create their own stories from that point on, because they are bounty hunters, right? Essentially, basically, futuristic space bounty hunters, and that it would actually make good for. And I say this cautiously because I don't want it to become a TV bad guy, villain of the week flavor kind of thing. But to some extent, that is what it was. But Cowboy Bebop did that, but at the same time, it still had the story happening in the background. And to some extent, there were lessons to be taken away and hints to what the future held for each character within those episodes. Right? And it's something that anime does well that I'm not sure I've seen adapted well to live action just yet. Right? So far, Hollywood, and I understand Hollywood is a business and the bottom line is important, but the recent films that they have attempted to make, their priority has always been to sort of neuter the original source material, change it to the point where it's unrecognizable, and to some extent dumb it down, which I don't understand why. Right? A lot of these animes are artistic and philosophical and somewhat highbrow in their own way. Well, Cowboy Bebop not so much. It's really an action anime, a jazz action anime. Music plays a huge part in this, and that's one of the other things that they will have to nail in order to get this right. Right? But oftentimes it's anime. These animes are a lot philosophical, or at least the ones that they have been choosing have been. And it begs the question: why choose these anime if you're going to erase that aspect of it and focus on just the action elements? Right? They did that with Ghost in the Shell, which was essentially about becoming human and the differences between man and machine. And the film didn't really explore that to the extent it should have. All right, it was basically an afterthought to Scarlett Johansson in scantily clad outfit, right? And the very same thing with Death Note. So oftentimes they seem to choose the projects maybe because of their popularity, but yeah, they're popular for a reason, right? And not the over the top action. That's just one factor, one facet of it, right? So I mean, that is one of the things that I am concerned with. But however they choose to take the story with John at the helm, I do think he will still he'll do a good job. They can use stunt doubles if it's a case of physicality and stuff like that. So that's nothing that should be too much of a hurdle. Now, one of my other concerns being the writer, not the writer, the director, Alex Lopez, right? Who I understand has done some work with The Punisher and Daredevil, which gets me excited because I did enjoy those two. But at the same time, the writer himself was attached to Thor: Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok, which tonally is drastically different from what you would get from Cowboy Bebop. It does have light moments, right? So there are light moments in it, but it's not comical, right? And while I enjoyed, I saw Thor: Ragnarok, and I know a lot of people loved it, but in terms of my list of favorite comic book superheroes, it's Batman, Spider-Man, and the Hulk. So I took extreme offense to the Hulk that we got in Thor: Ragnarok, and again, I spoke earlier about stripping away the complexities of the characters, and the ongoing battle between Bruce and the Hulk is very complex, and it's something that I don't think they explored. It's as though they just did away with it with one line, and what they said to us was, and I think it was in the previous film where Bruce says to Tony that you want to know how I control it? It's because I'm angry all the time. And I'm sorry about that. That's nonsense. If you are angry all the time, it means that you would be the Hulk all the time, because that is what triggers his transformation. And it felt as though they couldn't be bothered to explore it, so they just did away with it and swept it under the carpet and said, "Hey, he's fine now." Right? But watching and reading about that character for years, it's not something that simple. And if it was, a genius like Bruce Banner would have figured it out years ago, right? So this writer coming onto the team now has me nervous, right? But at the same time, Shinichiro Watanabe, who directed the original Cowboy Bebop series, I believe, and maybe the movie as well. The movie was really spectacular, so if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check it out. I believe he's on as an advisor, all right, and so with his involvement, it does give me some hope. It gives me some hope that they will do the source material justice. Does that erase my skepticism? Not entirely, but I'm hopeful. Right, I'm hopeful. And aside from John Cho, I believe Mustafa Shakira, Bushmaster from Luke Cage, is also involved, and he's going to be playing Jet, which I'm actually interested to see his portrayal of the character there. He was one of my favorite parts of Luke Cage, at least season 2 anyway. So I was really glad that they didn't kill off that character like they did Cottonmouth in season 1. That's one thing that Luke Cage has done well. It has cast some good villains, minus Black Mariah. I'm sorry, just didn't care for her. But Wishmaster, the actor who plays Wishmaster, did a brilliant job, and so I would love to see the dynamic between him and John as their respective characters, right? So again, I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm still skeptical going into it, but some of the names attached to it gives me hope, both behind and in front of the camera. So I'm excited to see what Netflix will do. And Netflix has, they have really impressed me of late. Their interest in animation, it shows their trust in their directors and their creative team and their process. And again, it shows. So I'm hopeful that the result that we'll get will be good. All right, so be sure to post down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are about Cowboy Bebop. Have you seen it? If you have not, check it out. All right, it's only 26 episodes. It's not that long. Be sure to watch it. If not now, do so before you have some time. But check it out nonetheless. All right. If that was not your favorite anime, be sure to post down in the comments. Let me know what your favorite anime was, and if you'd even want to see that animated and that adapted as well to live action, or like me, you prefer to just leave it alone. It's not just a style of animation. It's shaped a lot of persons and their views, and the person that they are today. Right, so a lot of persons hold these characters near and dear, and they don't want to see them adapted because animation itself is its own art form. So if it's perfect here, why do we need to see it here? We're not going out and picking great movies and turning them into animation, right? We're not doing the reverse. So why do this now? So so that criticism, I will tend to agree with some persons, but I'm still somewhat open-minded to see what we'll get. All right. So be sure to post down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on the topic. Be sure to hit like or subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.